I grew up in Indio, California, and I was the only child for 10 years, and then I had a little brother. So we're only a family of four.
This was 1999, and we had moved here from Japan. We met some missionaries from Japan, and so it was very exciting that they told us about this church. But it was definitely a moment where we just knew, all of us knew that this was where God wanted us to be. Several years later, when the children were in high school ministry, we started getting involved there, and my husband and I would actually serve at the high school ministry. He retired from the military and he got an amazing job here on the island, but then he got an offer in DC. And we had talked about it, and we didn't really want to move the children because they were so plugged in at church.
I think I was about 6 years old when I just realized there was something not right. And I realized that I was being sexually abused by my uncle. I was just so scared to tell anybody.
So we made the decision that he would go to the job in DC and I would stay behind with the children. He was gone for a while, but I went to visit him with Jonathan. I could tell he was not the same person, but I didn't know at that time that he was already having an affair.
Things would happen when my mom would say, oh, go spend the night at your auntie's house. And I'd be like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to. And my mom would always say, don't be rebellious, just go spend the night, it'll be fine, you'll have a blast. But I knew I wasn't going to have a blast because I knew something was going to happen that night. Just thoughts would come through my mind of the situations that I would blame myself sometimes. Was it my fault? Is it my fault? Did I do anything to cause this? I remember one time I was 7 years old, and I was in the bathtub just thinking, what would happen if I just drowned?
I showed Pastor Wayne the emails and things that I had found, and at that point then there was no hiding it, and so he had to come clean. So then Pastor Wayne called him in the office and to talk to him, and he told me he was going to do his very best to talk him into staying. And he came back out after talking to him, and he said, I'm sorry, Leslie. I never thought I'd be saying this, but it looks like it's going to be going the direction of a divorce.
At the age of 13, I told my mom, and I told her what's going on, but she didn't believe me. She didn't believe me, and she said, no, these are just hallucinations, this is your uncle that loves you. And I'm just like, no, Mom, you gotta believe me. In my teenage years, I started searching for things to feel that pain, to feel the hurt that I had, to feel the void in my heart that was just so big and so painful. But nothing satisfied me. I felt like I was just in a deep, dark hole where there was no light, there was no hope.
I don't understand how it happened, but I just went from a very sad place to a very dark place in a very short period of time in that moment. And I didn't want to live. I just didn't want to live anymore. So I went to the bathroom and I took pills, and I wrote a note to my children and telling them that I loved them, and I just didn't want to go forward.
I was broke down, I'd hit the ground. I was crying out, couldn't make no sound. No one hears the sad tears collected. I had lost hope, I was all alone. Never been so lost till you came along. Jesus, I feel the dots connected. So beat down on me, beat down like a waterfall, 'cause I can take on so much more than I had ever dreamed. And beat down on me, beat down like a waterfall, 'cause Jesus, I am ready to be free.
There was an Easter service where my mom again said, you gotta go to church or you're not going to hang out with your friends. So when I went, there was a preacher. He started speaking, about the hope in Christ and the resurrection. But he said Jeremiah 29:11, where it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, that will give you hope in a future."
I just remember scrubbing the floor and crying out to the Lord and saying, "Lord, please, I know you can do anything. I know you can fix this. I know that you can speak to him and you can change his mind." And I pleaded with him, "Please save my marriage." He's such a kind God. He was gently guiding me and letting me know that I'm going to be here for you, but I want you to know that it's not going to be the ending that you're hoping for.
When he said that to prosper you and not to harm you, and to give you hope in the future, those words really stood out to me. And I just said, "Really? Are you really going to give me a hope in the future, Jesus?" So the pastor said, "Anybody that wants to come and needs prayer, please come up to the front." So I stood up and I walked and I just kneeled down and just closed my eyes and just felt, the Lord just lift up this weight.
I think a lot of the things turned around when Christopher also helped me to encourage me to get involved in worship. I think a lot of my healing came through being involved in the worship team and just being surrounded by my girlfriends there, and just getting to be encouraged as we worship the Lord.
Finally, the Lord had completely healed that, where it was just the wound that once was a wound was a scar, where I could look back and say, "Oh, this doesn't hurt me anymore. It's just a memory where I could look back and say, oh, the Lord healed me from this, and this is what happened."
And now I am invincible. No, I ain't a scared little girl anymore. Yeah, I am invincible. What was I running for? See, I was hiding from the world. I was so afraid, I felt so unsure. Now I am invincible, another perfect star.
When you're in that valley, God is so near to you. There's a verse that says that he's near to the brokenhearted, and that's true. He is so near that you feel his presence.
So in the beginning, when I started going to church, I wasn't into service. I was just going because of the parties, right? And Will already had just something in his heart, steering in his heart that, hey, I want to kind of date this girl. I want to get to know her. My youth pastor was so wise, and he talked to her, and she said, let her fall in love with the Lord first. Let her find Jesus first. So my husband waited a year and a half, and then finally I got into the youth. And then there we just started, talking, and there was chemistry. So we dated and we got married. Now we're the New Hope Young Adults pastors, and we have a little girl, and we have a set of twins, brand new twins.
All of a sudden I look back and I say, oh my goodness, Lord, we're actually serving you. Like, that was my dream. That was my goal, was to be able to serve you with my family and with my grandchildren. And he answered my prayer. I'm in awe from looking back to 7 years ago to today, where he has brought us.
I look back now and I'm like, when I questioned him, I knew that he was just like, why are you testing me? I'm gonna give you this hope and this future. And I look now and I'm like, yeah, Lord, your promises do come to pass.
I wanted to leave a legacy that was for the Lord. And I wanted my children to say, okay, Mom went through this and she came out the other side because she leaned on God. And I want them to have that same heart. And to see them working in ministry and following after Jesus is a blessing.
With that one step that I took and gave him my heart, he just took my whole life. He has taken away all my embarrassment. He has taken away all my sins. He has taken away all my shameness. He has taken away the feeling that I feel dirty, that I feel rejected, that I feel that I'm not worth it. He has taken it all away. And just his forgiveness and his love for me, his unconditional love for me, that's enough. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade Jesus for the world.
broke down, I hit the ground. I was crying out, couldn't make no sound. No one hears the silent tears collecting. You know I had lost hope, I was all alone. Never been so lost till you came along. Teacher, I feel the dots connecting. So beat down on me, beat down like a waterfall, 'cause I can take on so much more than I had ever dreamed. And beat down on me, beat down like a waterfall, 'cause Jesus, I am ready to be free. Now I am invincible. No, I ain't a scared little girl no more. Yeah, I am invincible. What was I running from? See, I was hiding from the world. I was so afraid, I felt so unsure. Now I am invincible. Another perfect storm. Yeah, yeah. Now I am a warrior, a shooting star. No, I got this far, had a broken heart. No one hears the silent tears collecting. 'Cause it's being weak but strong, the truth I found. I've got courage now, I can shout it out. Teacher, I feel the dots connecting. So beat down on me, beat down like a waterfall, 'cause I can take on so much more than I had ever dreamed. And beat down on me, beat down like a waterfall, 'cause Jesus, I am ready to be free. Now I am invincible. No, I ain't a scared little girl no more. Yeah, I am invincible. What was I running for? No, I was running from the world. I was so afraid, I was so unsure. Now I am invincible. Another perfect storm. And I was running from an empty threat of emptiness. I was running from an empty threat that didn't exist. I was running from an empty threat of abandonment. I was running from an empty threat that didn't exist. But now I am invincible. No, I ain't a scared